Hi there, it's Kate. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a hot minute. There's been a lot going on. I have some thoughts about like my general reading life that I may talk onto the end of this video, or I may just film another more kind of just navel-gazing introspection, reflection type of video. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Otherwise, let's just talk about the reading that I've done in the last very long time, shall we? I spent a lot of time reading cozy mysteries recently, and most of my reading time right now I'm spending in a dark room with my 18-month-old, as she just needs someone to be in her room with her while she's falling asleep. And sometimes I have to sing to her while I'm in there, so I can't read anything very complicated because it's hard to read and sing at the same time. If you've ever done that, it's very, very tricky not to start singing the words that you're that you're reading. So anyways, I've been reading cozy mysteries. I don't want to talk about all of them. Currently kind of reading this one. This is The Long Quiche Goodbye. This is by Avery Ames. The main character is the proprietor of a cheese shop, which is exciting. It's just really hard for me to read cozy mysteries in paperback form, or in hard paper copy form, I'm realizing. So that's why it's been taking me a while. Another series that I just want to quickly mention, this is the second book. This is Guilty as Cinnamon. The first book is called Salt and Pepper, and it's by Leslie Budowitz. And I mention this because these are set in Pike Place Market in Seattle. So if you are interested in a dose of what Seattle is like, these books are the way to go, and that is primarily why I'm reading them. So, other than the cozy mysteries, I read really quickly, this is My Pantry by Alice Waters. So this is, Alice Waters is obviously a prolific food writer, proprietor of Chez Panisse in San Francisco, and just her food writing is very, like her, I assume her restaurant is very minimal and kind of common sense. And I like Alice Walker and others like her, Tamar Adler, as another one, etc., etc. Just kind of like a rejuvenation of when I'm not feeling like cooking is hard right now with 2 children in a new house and a new setting, and it's just hard. And so this is kind of like a motivation thing. So I read that one. I also read, finally, and I can't remember if I've talked about this already, so if I have, I apologize, but this is Wild Country by Anne Bishop. This is the latest in the World of the Others series. So this takes place in one of the places that we were introduced to in the first set of books, and it just kind of takes off the story that was started there, if that makes sense. So I didn't like this one as much as I like the other ones. I will still continue to read these stories 100% because I love the world. Sorry about the glare. But I didn't get to know the main female character as well, the main human female character in this one as well, and so I felt just less connected to the book as a whole. But you learned a lot more about the others, so it was kind of a trade-off. The short story is that I didn't care for it as much, but I'm looking forward to the next book whenever that comes out. Next, I'm trying to go through these quickly, sorry. I read West by Carrie Davies, and this is a book, this is a very short 150-page book about a man right after about the time of the Lewis and Clark expedition in the United States. He hears about what the reader recognizes as fossils or dinosaur bones, and in the frontier, and goes to find them. He leaves he's a widower, so he leaves behind his young daughter with his sister, and just basically packs up and leaves. And the story is told, we see his perspective and also the perspective of his daughter, who was left behind. And reading this, I could just really tell that I have not read a lot of literary fiction recently. My literary chops were kind of not quite there, but I still enjoyed it. And I got a lot of, it reminded me, just based on kind of the setting and the feeling of the book, it reminded me of In the Distance by Hernan Diaz, which was one of my favorite books of last year. So that's pretty high praise. And this is a book that I think I would read again to try to get more out of it, because I know that I missed stuff. I liked it, but I'm pretty sure I would like it more on a second reading, if that makes sense. Finally, books that I finished. Oh yeah. So this is Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. And this one is so hyped. I resisted it because, well, I don't normally resist books because of the hype. I'm kind of I go with the hype type of a girl a lot of the times, but it's about Cuba, and I studied Latin American history in graduate school, so I'm wary of depictions of Cuba, especially like literally romanticized, right? This is a romance novel, or women's fiction with a romantic twist maybe, but it's like literally a romanticized version of Cuban history. So I was wary of this, but I gave in and I read it and I loved it. I really thought that there was a lot of nuance to the portrayal of this moment of transition from Batista to Castro. And we heard from multiple sides of that transition. So the main character is so the story is about the granddaughter of one of the wealthy families who was forced into exile to Miami. And we hear the granddaughter's story as she's going back to Cuba in the present day, but then we also see the grandmother's perspective in the 1950s in Cuba, and some perspectives of some revolutionaries, and I don't want to give anything away, but it's actually quite good. And there was a very small discussion of race in here, which, had it not been in there at all, I would not be giving this glowing praise. I don't know that it was enough. It felt very much like, hey, I need to talk about race in Cuba. I can't talk about this without talking about race and still be like, have this be kind of a responsible depiction of Cuban history. So it was one conversation in the book that felt almost like a throwaway conversation, but I really appreciated that it was there at all. So yeah, I will be reading the second book shortly, and I'm excited for that. So those are the books that I finished. I'm currently just kind of reading a lot. You know, I've got books, again, Cozy Mysteries on my Kindle, which are great. I'm also slowly making my way through this one. This is Arundhati Roy's The End of Imagination. And this is the March and April pick for the Because We've Read book club, which is run by Hoda Kotb. And I love Arundhati Roy. I've never actually finished one of her books. I own this one, I own The God of Small Things, and I own The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, which I've actually read half of, but my loan had to go back to the library, and then I got a copy and I just haven't finished yet. But her writing is so beautiful that I can't bear to read it, because then I will have read it and I won't be able to read it again for the first time. Does anybody else feel that way? Is that ridiculous? I have an entire shelf of books that I cannot bear to read because they're so beautiful, which is crazy, but it's true. So I'm currently stuck in this essay. This is an essay collection, and this essay is about nuclear war, and it is beautiful, but I cannot keep reading it because it is too beautiful. It's crazy. Anyways, I like this book. On the other end of the spectrum, I'm also reading L. Frank Baum, Creator of Oz by Catherine M. Rogers, which I'm enjoying because I enjoy the subject matter, and we actually took our daughters to a play of The Wizard of Oz last weekend, and it was so much fun. It was like a family adaptation, and they'd kind of put an American folklore twist on like the music and the storyline. So it was super cute, and it was perfect. And it just made me want to keep learning more about the creation of the story. So I am still reading this book. It's just, there's not really a narrative other than it's just kind of spewing the facts about this man's life, which is just a little bit hard to read sometimes. so it's great. It's just a little hard to read. And then finally, I am reading Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. This is the third book in the Wayfarers trilogy. I love the first two books, especially the first one was amazing. The second one was really good. This one so far, and my opinion could absolutely change. I am not very far into this book. This is not my favorite. This is told from the perspective of many, many different characters, like 5 or 6, and each character has just like 2 or 3 pages, and then we move on to the next character. And the only way that I can tell them apart is because their name is at the beginning of the chapter, and I cannot keep them straight, and I can't remember who is who. I'm having a really hard time. I don't know if it's because I only have like 15 or 20 minutes to read at the end of the day, and so I don't have time to really get immersed into it and therefore remember who is who or what. I love the world still. I love the story. We're finally learning more about the humans in this world and what happened to them. In the other books, we learn a lot about the other species and just a little bit about the humans, and largely from like the other species perspective. But this is all about the humans, and so I'm really interested to learn more about what happened to them and why and how and all that kind of stuff. I just need to figure out who is who's telling the story. So that's it. That is what I have been reading and am reading the last 4 months, probably 4 weeks. Hopefully I will be able to film more. I don't know, you guys. Well, I'm doing my best. But anyways, let me know if you've read any of these, or if you have anything you want to chat about. I would love to down in the comments below, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.